Welcome to Survive in Advance on the Truth Sports Network. Survive in Advance is brought to you by MyBookie.ag and SeatGiant. I am your co-host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now I'd like to welcome in my other co-host. Yeah, I said other Steve. 1981 national champion. He has a ring. If you don't and you want to see one, he will gladly send you a picture of it. Help me welcome to the show a man who played for Bobby Knight, Steve Risley. How you doing, Steve?
Mike, I now have 2 rings.
Really?
I have my Hall of Fame ring now, too, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got 2 rings.
Okay. I'm still up on you 6.
All right, well, if you're going to spit out statistics, be accurate with them. I mean, just do that,
Well, I didn't think anybody cared about the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame unless they were in Indiana.
Well, I think Larry Bird cares. I think that Oscar Robertson cares. I think
Larry Bird's probably
cares.
too busy looking at his 3 NBA World Championship rings.
I think Steve Alford cares. I think Kent Benson cares.
I don't think Steve Alford cares. He needs a job. He needs a job.
I think Steve Alford
does now. He has no job.
Yeah.
I think that Bobby, he's got more money than Guy. He doesn't need a job. I think Bobby Plump cares. I can go down the list of all the people that. Well,
they
he's
made
in the Hall
a
of Fame
movie
too.
about Bobby Plump. Did they make a movie about you losing to Little Aurora High School in 1977?
No, they did not. And I'm glad they didn't because I have to live it enough with you.
Let's go ahead and welcome our guest for today to the show. First up from the Sheridan Report, was drafted by the San Diego Padres in 1987, which was a long time ago. Help me welcome to the show, Bobby Sheridan. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm doing great, Mike. Great to talk baseball,
Hey,
I'll tell you that.
Bobby, I got a question for you. I don't even know the answer to this. No. I have a legitimate. What position did you play in baseball? I don't even know that.
Well, I was a right-handed pitcher when I was healthy.
Oh, okay.
I had 2
All right,
Tommy
well,
John
cool.
surgeries right away, and that kind of took me out. But I'll tell you one thing. I got to hang around Bruce Bochy for a couple summers, and that was a treat.
Well.
Ooh, cool.
I'll tell you what.
Whatever that is.
For the last, he's like
whoever that is,
the best
going into
manager
the Hall
in
of Fame,
baseball.
you can exit from the conversation right now, Risley. If you don't know who Bruce Bochy is. Holy cow. The guy's got 3
man.
all in the last 8 or 9 years. Where have you been?
All right.
I don't follow baseball.
Let's go
I'm
ahead
not
and
a
get the
baseball
rest
guy.
of the people on. And first up, I know that Bobby has hung out with Bruce Bochy, and of course Bobby Knight and Steve Risley. But for the last 3 or 4 years, I've had the pleasure of knowing Graham McGowan from the Out of Left Field podcast. How you doing, Graham?
What's going on, guys? Another day in paradise down here.
All right. It's not paradise where I live because it's Indiana and it's cold. And next up, from the APC Agency, somebody who Risley, I think, was stalking and trying to find somebody that knew something about baseball because he doesn't. Sara Uhran. How you doing, Sara?
How's it going, guys? He knows nothing about baseball. It's the only time he stays quiet. It's like a blessing every time.
Yes.
All right.
Wow. All right. I'm going to watch the special right now on R. Kelly, so you guys all go talk about it. I'm going to see what R. Kelly's doing right now because he's in trouble.
You're only watching that in the hopes that a Kardashian might make an appearance. Don't lie.
That's correct.
All right.
My wife works in Calabasas now. She's closer to the Kardashians now, so she's kind of in the same neighborhood. She works very close to Hidden Hills, so we're kind of cool with that
That's
now.
awesome.
Excited.
Okay.
So
just like your
have
best
you
friends.
changed locations now of where you're recording the podcast just to catch a glimpse?
No, I'm still in Granada Hills. So.
All right, so let's start off. We're going to talk Major League Baseball today, and the Atlantic League has a deal with Major League Baseball. And let's just go through this. Graham, I'll let you start us off and tell us exactly what Major League Baseball and the Atlantic League are in the process of doing.
So obviously we've heard ad nauseum probably the last 4 or 5 years. We've even talked about it on the show a couple of times of ways to speed the game up to make the game, quote unquote, better or more appealing to younger fans. So Major League Baseball, in conjunction with the Independent Baseball Atlantic League, has set up 6 different rule changes, some of which we're not really sure how they're going to be implemented yet. But the biggest one I think everyone's heard about is the Atlantic League will have balls and strikes called by a machine. It will be called via kind of the same camera system that we see, that shows, that shows the balls and strikes on, ESPN, Fox Sports, that kind of stuff. So they will be using that to call balls and strikes. They will require all pitchers to face, or at least pitchers until the end of the inning, to face a minimum of 3 batters before change can happen. There is something mentioned about no check swings, although we're unsure of how that's going to be officiated, because a check swing is someone's going to check. So we're not sure how that's going to be officiated yet. No mound visits except for a change of the pitcher. And mid-season, the pitcher's mound will be moved back from 60 feet 6 inches to 62 feet.
All right. So my first question here, we'll go with Sara first. Do you like these rule changes, or the possibility of these rule changes?
I mean, it's a tough call, right? Because you hear it both ways. I think it's, when you look at it as a fan, if it's your team that's negatively impacted, you're like all about trying to find a fix. But at the same time, baseball's. I mean, I get it. It's a business and it's entertainment and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, like, it's a backyard sport, right? It's like there's human error in sports, and that's part of the game as well. I mean, that's part of what goes along with it. So it's a little, the pitching change and stuff doesn't bother me as much. There is certain things. It does slow the game down a lot, and but baseball's not necessarily a momentum sport. So does it slow it down drastically? Probably not. Like when you're looking at hockey or basketball or something of that nature. I don't know. I mean, I think eliminating human error from sports kind of takes away from sports, and if sports starts to become so technologically based, then what do we lose? We lose something, I think, personally, but.
Well, now, Bobby,
absolutely.
You're a baseball guy, and my concern is this. You can't move the mound, all right? And like Sara said.
Yeah, that's not happening.
That won't happen. But the thing is this, the fact that they would even consider it is stupid. I mean, you're moving it back to 62 feet to try to get more runs, which is more base runners, doesn't that make the game go longer?
Yeah, as Sara was talking, I totally agree with her comments, regarding the human element, and, baseball's kind of a sacred sport, and the momentum part that she brought up was really good because I had never really thought of that angle of it. But at the same time, we've got like a mixed mash of things here. You have speed up stuff, you have replay stuff, and then you've got, where does the 62 feet thing come in? It's like that has nothing to do with the point of the other changes. It's just, I don't get it. That'll never happen. None of this stuff will happen, to be honest with you.
What?
Maybe electronic strike.
I don't know if I agree with that.
In the 1940s, Bobby, in the 1940s, nobody would have ever thought there would have been a DH, Graham.
Well, I mean, to me, electronic balls and strikes should not happen. I've talked to A.J. Pierzynski. I've talked to Clay Buchholz about it. Neither of them are in favor of the idea of an electronic strike zone. And Pierzynski is infamous for his interactions with umpires, and he says that it's the dumbest effing idea he's ever heard. That was his direct quote to me. So I think it makes no sense, because if the biggest thing is your home plate umpire is someone who's done that a lot of times throughout my life in the last decade as I've been officiating, you don't want to have someone there who still needs to be behind the plate in order to do check swings. Someone has to be there for fair foul calls at the plate. If there's a little dribbler, has to be there for plays at the plate. So what are you going to do? Have a guy who just stands behind a piece of plexiglass and then comes out when a play happens? They need to be fully involved. As far as the mound goes,
it's totally. Well, hold on. Let's say on that point, it's totally awkward. I don't have the name dropping. I'm not going to name drop, but on the commentary here, but just giving you a hard time. But I think like the animation of an umpire behind home plate is part of the game. Like, there are some umpires who you can't tell whether they're calling balls or strikes if you're sitting in the stands. But then when they call that third strike, or a foul ball happens off where they've got to run it out to first or whatever, there's animation that goes into it. And if you take that away from behind the plate, I mean, what the hell is the point of watching it? Why not just watch a computer screen? I mean, at that point, you might as well play a video game.
Yeah, and
well,
Steve,
I mean, and ejections will be gone at that point too, because what else is there to argue about other than a safe out call at first, but now you can replay unless both teams use up both their replays, before the seventh inning. I mean, you're going to lose more of the human interaction that kind of makes the game what it is. You already have with instant replay on the bases. You very rarely ever get a good nose-to-nose fight except for balls and strikes anymore.
Yeah, and when you look at it, Steve, I know you're somebody that hates instant replay at all ends, and as Sara said, you can't take the human element away, but it looks like that's what they want to do.
Yeah,
and think about too, like, I mean, watching, I know Steve's going to give me crap about this, but anyway.
What about interrupting?
Saturday we were at the. No, I don't care about that.
Okay.
I was at a soccer game on Saturday at the MLS opened up on last Saturday, and you get questionable calls made, and you get the guys in a ref's face, and the ref's going to instant replay and all that, but it's different in that kind of a sport where you can use instant replay, but there's still a ref on the field. If you take away that home plate umpire, you literally have none of that engagement anymore. And quite honestly, that is part of the entertainment is when a bad call is made. If a manager gets in you've got managers that were famous for getting in the faces of these umpires. What are they going to do? Start screaming at the computer screen? Go up to the balls and strikes camera?
Well, you look on top of that same thing, what's going to start happening is that curveball, that change up, that slider that's dropping in the dirt that crosses right at the kneecap, that's going to be called. And when a catcher's digging it out of the dirt, when umpires routinely don't call that because of how it's perceived, how it looks, no one complains about that. That's going to become called. So guys are going to go up there thinking, well, do I need a 9-iron? No, this is what you wanted. Now you're going to get the negative side of what you thought was going to be so fantastic. So what they're used to is, those breaking balls that come in a little bit higher in the zone but drop down right below the top, and they can swing and make contact. No one's going to bother to throw that. They're going to start burying pitches down, forcing guys to hack right through the dirt, and nothing's going to happen because it's still going to be a strike.
Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, is it my turn now?
Yeah.
I mean, anybody else want to jump in on top of me?
So what I was thinking,
Bobby, you want to jump in on top of me right now before I start saying anything?
No. Hey, Sarah's the only one that interrupted you, so go ahead.
All right. I think that sports is this. Sports is about opportunity and adversity. That's the nature of the game. And I'll go back to Los Angeles versus New Orleans in the dreaded call made by a human that was an opportunity for one team and an adversity for another team, and that made the game and everything compelling. When you start doing everything mechanical, it stops being compelling. And kind of like Sara said, then you might as well just play it on EA Sports and go ahead and play it on a video game and say the computer rules the game. And it's not the human element that rules the game. So, yeah, I'm entirely against instant replay, period. Because we can find no happy medium for it. I understand the fact that if you're on the out-of-bounds line or not on the out-of-bounds line, black and white calls I could live with if we could just keep the black and white calls. But now we start screwing with a strike zone and things like that, which, and again, I'm not a baseball genius by any stretch of the imagination, but I think you just continue to make the game more of a movie, more CGI, more like a television show than it is a sport, and you're taking it all away. I think they should just leave it alone. Human error is part of sports. Bobby, you played professional baseball. Tell me I'm wrong. That, human error is a part of what we do on everybody's part. And actually, I think of all the professional referees and umpires and anybody, baseball gets it better than anybody. I mean, when you watch replay on TV of baseball umpires on, hits to first base or they're right 95% of the time, which is better than any other sport that I've ever watched on television. So I think it's terrible to take the human element out of the game. You might as well just play it on EA Sports. My son's got a big 70-inch TV in his bedroom, and let him put it on there, on his 4K TV and do it there. And that's professional baseball for you now. There you go.
But I think to your point, the points you're making are completely, valid, and I think it speaks to our culture though right now, which is the struggle that sports is facing, which is that our attention span is so short. But baseball is not meant to be a quick sport. Like, it's just not. It's meant to be a sport that you go and you sit and you hang with friends and eat hot dogs and drink beer and you spend an afternoon there. That's what it's meant to be. It's not meant to have a time structure.
And Bobby, you and I have talked about this because I know you and I are going to go to a Dodgers game, and we're going to go. And I said, to me, baseball is the most romantic sport in the world because you sit out on a beautiful
Is that why you and Bobby
afternoon.
are going together?
Whatever, Mike. But you go there and you sit in the summer and you hey, bat, swing, ducks on a pond, let's go.
Nobody
Come on,
does
bat,
that
swing.
in a baseball game.
Ferris Bueller did,
Yeah,
at
that's
Wrigley
a
Field.
movie. You're the one that just said you wanted to get away from it being a movie.
That was a romantic movie.
Ferris Bueller?
It just the romanticism of baseball, if you take it away, and what this era, the millennials, I guess you'll call them, or whatever you want to call them, they have this thing that we didn't have. I'm 60. I'm 60 years old, okay? I grew up on Atari Pong, which had two knobs on it that we played some tennis game back and forth, dunk, 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 and it got faster and faster, and you finally couldn't keep up with it. But they have this thing now called a reset button. And every time now, what sports wants to do and television wants to do is you want to be able to hit that reset button and say, we don't think that's fair. We're going to hit the reset button. We're going to replay this. Bullshit. Play the game. If you don't like because what happens now is with this reset button, you have the ability, if you don't like the fact of the outcome that what's deriving from the game, you can turn it off and stop it and just restart a new game right in the middle of the game. I hate that because that's not how I grew up playing sports. I grew up on a dust bowl.
Well, everyone gets a medal, right?
Yeah, participation awards, if you want to call it that. But I grew up playing, in dust bowls, which were concrete courts with a rubber basketball with guys I didn't know, and we played until 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and we didn't reset. Winner stays up. Winner stays up. Or two in, one out. And we had these rules that said you got to compete to win. They're taking that all away from the sport, is my opinion, and I'm done talking about it.
Well, I think this. I think what you're going to is, and we see scholarships now for it, but esports 25 years from now is going to be the main sport, and that's just going to be some kid with acne sitting in his parents' room freaking playing the game.
Mike, the NBA has an E-League.
That's what I'm talking about.
They have representatives.
They all do.
The NBA. They all do now. Do they all have it now? They have an E-League where they actually the Pacers have a kid that they pay. Yeah. Go ahead, Sarah. I'm sorry.
They sign each team in the MLS. They actually sign a contract as like the EA player for that team for the year.
Yeah, NBA does the same thing.
You get a contract. Yeah. I mean, it's like talk about ruining sports. Like, get outside. Go outside. Stop sitting in front of a TV all day. Like, you already have a screen physically attached to your hand at all times. We all do. But, like, go outside. I mean, it's insane to me. It's the craziest thing. And if baseball becomes that, and I just don't think baseball, I think baseball of all the sports is the one sport that doesn't warrant that.
It's romantic.
And if
baseball
they take
is romantic.
that away,
baseball is romantic. It's a romantic game.
It is the
romantic
most
game in the world. Yeah.
It's the most social game because of your interaction with people at the game. People who tell me baseball is boring are people who cannot relax. Like, you are meant to go to a baseball game and just chill. That is what you are supposed to do.
And, Bobby, you and I have talked about that. We've talked about how fun it's going to be to get a Dodger dog, go to a Dodger stadium. I've never been to Chavez Ravine. I want to go, and we're trying to get Mike out because we're going to see the Reds play, and that's Mike's team. And we're going to talk about the fact that all three of us are going to sit there and just in a chair, lean them back, and just talking about crap and watching the game as just the romanticism of the whole evening in Los Angeles at a Dodgers game. And we've talked about that. And
yeah,
no doubt.
Oh, it's gonna be great, and that's what it's about. And Sarah's comments are so
spot on.
And how about umpires? You know, the personality of the umpires that call balls and strikes. You know, the louder umpire, the guy who's got the delayed call. How about the 3-2 pitch where it's right on the corner, we don't know. Then all of a sudden the umpire, boom, boom, you know, he's got it and he bangs him right there. Just that's exciting, and the crowd goes crazy.
Bobby,
we don't care about an electronic screen on the friggin' scoreboard.
Is it fair to say, Bobby, that we don't see what the umpire sees because we don't have the exact angle the umpire has? I mean, we get the cameras always at a little bit of a slight angle, so you're never really standing right behind the pitcher, and you're always at kind of a little angle away from the pitcher. Yeah.
Well, you know what's great too, Steve, is that we always used to know the umpires in the leagues, you know, whether minor league or major league, whatever, it's all the same. This guy's a high ball umpire. This guy's a low ball umpire. This guy, you know, he calls, you know, this. That's part of.
You had to learn how to pitch.
Part of the game. Yeah.
You had to learn how to pitch that umpire. You had to learn how to pitch that umpire because you knew where his strike zone was.
The other thing is that we're built in this world that we are trying to find perfection in things that are not perfect. There is nothing perfect about sports. There just isn't. There's going to be fouls that aren't called, and there's going to be balls that aren't strikes, and all of that. But guess what? In the end, somebody wins and somebody loses, and that's just what happens. And then you get to spend the entire off season talking about why you got screwed.
And Sarah, it also gives teams an opportunity to overcome bad calls and show that their grit and their resolve. The great teams do that. And you know what I'm saying? That's a great point you just made. Yeah.
Well, and Sarah, think about this. Mike, in the NFL, what was the biggest, most compelling moment this year in the NFL? Aside from New England winning the Super Bowl again, it was the call, right? It was the call, the missed call.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that was the most
compelling, biggest moment for the NFL. That was it. It's what we all talk about. We're all still talking about it, and we're going to talk about it.
And how amazing that the Saints fans went and got those billboards. Like, that stuff is cool. That made sports great. Like, and regardless of the fact that the Saints should or should not have been in there, there's reason to say, you know, well, maybe if they had come that close to the wire, they would have made it, or whatever the answer is. But it's amazing that billboard was taken out.
Well, and what you're also what people are missing in this is what happens after that moment, how teams respond, how managers, how coaches, how officials respond.
Opportunity and adversity.
Right. I mean, you you remember the Dankinger call at first. You remember the Joyce call, at first, and those kind of things. But what you don't know is that Jim Leland goes into the umpire room and talks to Jim Joyce afterwards, and they sit there and light up cigarettes and drink beer. And he's like, "Dude, Jimmy, we won the game. At the end of the day, all I care about are wins and losses. I get it sucks for the kid, and you've done your thing. You've owned it. Said, let's move on. Like, you're one of the best. Let's move on." And you don't hear this stuff. All you see is, oh, he's the umpire. He's the villain. He's vilified. He's booed. Now, granted, the way that he handled it certainly changed the narrative rapidly because of how open and and emotional that the failure made Jim Joyce. But people don't see beyond just what happens in front of them on the screen.
But
I'm old enough. Hang on. I'm old enough. I remember Wally Pipp replacing Lou Gehrig.
Yeah. All right. So. Good, Sarah.
But what about the fact? The other thing is this, and this is the thing that culturally, and this is beyond just baseball, but this is like culturally dealing with athletes on my day-to-day on, I manage a lot of their day-to-day stuff, their basic things, but one of the biggest things I focus on is life after sports. And I'm sorry, the guys who face the adversity, the guys who get the bad calls, the guys who have to overcome that, those are the guys who have a legacy to talk about. When they go and they meet with business executives and they talk about a botched play or they talk about a bad call and they have a story behind them, that is stuff that makes or breaks you as an athlete as well, beyond the sport that you're playing. And you take away and you try and kind of like strive for this. We're always going to be perfect. We're going to call things back. We're going to do this. Like, it takes away that element of what they're learning because let's face it, these athletes are being educated on a field. That's where their education takes place. Their life experiences happen there. And what they do with that experience to move forward in their life is crucial. And, it's if we're going to coddle and say participation at even the pro level gets you a ribbon, then, we're failing everybody on every single level.
So the question is
on the bright side, I do like the three batters a pitcher must face.
I don't.
I don't.
Really?
Why?
I think this.
The strategy.
From the strategy.
It's not
Straight
really.
from the strategy. It's a chess
Jesus
game.
Christ.
It's a chess game.
Well, shit. You just go ahead and
Look.
answer for me, Risley.
No, to me it takes away from that because you load up.
You're done.
You load up a bullpen
Whatever.
with
Gets old.
10, 12 guys, and you go 1-to-1 back and forth. No, I like the strategy of okay, you get a pitcher, he's got three batters. Who are you going to choose in what situation with who's on deck, who's in the hole, who's on the bench, and what are you going to do? And I'm tired of seeing 2.5 minutes between every single inning. When they bring in a pitcher, he takes 2.5 minutes, faces a batter, take him out another 2.5 minutes. We're talking 15, 20, 30 minutes to get 3 outs with nobody on base because of the consistent commercials back and forth.
Graham, that would be okay if it was just the 9th or the 8th or something, but that shit's starting in the 4th and 5th inning now because starting pitchers only go 80 pitches, 100 pitches. We have openers. We have this. We have that. That crap game is starting from the 4th, 5th inning on now, and that's why it's 4.5 hours. If that was just the 8th or 9th inning, no big deal. One thing leads to another, leads to another.
Isn't this what we talked about last week, too, though? I mean, this is the nature of statistics in baseball right now, right? Like I was telling you guys, I mean, it drives me crazy when a pitcher is pitching really well and statistically it says, well, we're in the 7th inning and he's pitched X amount of pitches, so we're going to take him out. I mean, not letting these guys finish a game is ridiculous at this point, but, they've got all their stats and they're following these numbers. And, I mean, at the end of the day, if they're changing pitchers that quickly, that's all it is, right, is they're looking at stats and going, okay, now this batter hits really well against this guy. So even though he only threw one pitch to get that guy out, we're going to switch. So, I mean, it's not so much the time or anything like that. It's the fact that, again, statistics are running this game.
It's analytics. Analytics have ruined most of it.
I think the analytics department is what lost the Dodgers the World Series. You look at, what Dave Roberts planned for, and then you go 18 innings deep when – well, we didn't think we were going to go 18 innings, and we exhausted our whole bullpen. Now, all of a sudden, because the analytics said pull this guy here and pull this guy here, now I'm trying to recoup for 4 more games, and, this is the World Series.
Well, how about – hey, Graham, how about the postseason game where the Dodgers – I forgot what game it was or what series, but it was maybe the NLDS or something, where they started a lineup where their 4 best hitters were on the bench because of the analytics. Can you imagine playing a postseason game and your 4 best hitters are on the bench? Do you remember that game?
It was that way in the World Series when they were in Boston. They had a game where I think none of the lefties. It was a righty strong lineup, and Muncy wasn't playing, and Bellinger wasn't playing, and the sad thing is Roberts comes out and says, "Well, we tried this lineup during the year at times. We started with this where our lefties didn't hit and." You look back, and it was crap because Cody Bellinger played 162 games. The last time I checked, a Major League Baseball season is 162 games. So, no, you never did this. You never had him on the bench and did an entire righty lineup or whatever it was. So whose line are you trying to go ahead and make look good here? That, to me, was the moment where you go, okay, this is the analytics department.
I think in the past – a great baseball manager was a great baseball manager because they had a feel for the game, and that
absolutely
is
gone. Bingo. And the players had respect for the manager, not just a talking head making the decision because the computer said what.
Yeah,
I believe
because
in
now
my
the
player.
manager's not making the decisions.
Correct.
No, it's the GM and an analytics department.
Yeah.
And if you follow Bochy or you follow Tim Flannery on Twitter, Tim Flannery was one of Bochy's right-hand guys for 18 years, Padres and the Giants. They're so done with this analytic crap. They're so done with this. They're totally against that. Who came into the Giants? Guy from the Dodgers is now running the Giants. Can't fire Bochy. He got to go on his own. I'll leave. Bochy might not be done after this year, guys. He's just done in San Francisco.
He won't be. He's going to be the manager at San Diego.
Oh, that would be awesome.
No, I think the best thing I can go, and I think you're right, is that analytics has gone from being used as a tool. Analytics has now become what runs the operation, and the manager is now a tool for analytics. And they've flipped the roles, and that is one of the biggest things that hurts the game. Because, that gut managing, that feel for the game, what's happening out there is being taken away, and that was what made the game so romantic, as you guys put it. So that when you go and you lock arms, having that Dodger dog and meet in the middle like Lady and the Tramp, you just feel the enjoyment of Chavez Ravine.
Yes.
Well, and as a Yankee fan, no surprise to anybody, I always we used to talk about this in my house all the time, was the ruining and the destruction of Jabba Chamberlain as a pitcher. The analytics destroyed that guy, in my opinion. That is completely my opinion. But the way that they pitched him really impacted him. That guy was huge. Jabba could have pitched full games every single game. Now, whether he was having a good game or not, that's a totally different topic. That kid could pitch 9 innings every game that he played. And they destroyed him because it was the number of pitches. If he hit that, in the 4th inning, they pulled him. If he hit that in the 6th inning, they pulled him. And you cost him games. You cost yourself games because you were bringing in relievers when you really didn't need to be, because it was all based on a pitch count, not based on how he was performing.
Yeah, that's happening to not just Jabba, but that's all across the league now.
Yeah, it's just like
this magical 100 pitch mark.
Yeah, when Steve and Bobby talk about Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan's records are safe because nobody's ever going to be allowed to attempt to go get Nolan Ryan's records.
Totally.
That's correct.
But so it's kind of the opposite of like football and quarterbacks and wide receivers. The numbers now are so inflated, the old-time guys look bad. Now, though, when you go and look at the pitching statistics, the pitching statistics don't match up with the way they were 30 years ago. Unless you're a reliever.
Well, that and then your hitting statistics are inflated at certain points and then deflated. Where average is now the average. Best guys hit maybe 260, 270, and striking out at a 3-to-1 ratio. When you look at the fact that I think it was Adrian Beltre has less strikeouts after he finished a 19-year career than Giancarlo Stanton already has accumulated in his 8-year career with 7 or 8 more to go, I think, on this deal. I mean, it's the game itself has changed, so certain things inflate and certain things look a lot worse.
All right, so
go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I was going to bring up, we're talking about speed up rules and some of this. We're talking about refining the calls, some of this stuff. But where does 62 feet from the pitcher's distance, where does that come into all this? I mean, it's stupid. I just don't get why that's even being brought out. Does it
I think the idea is to try and lower velocity a little bit because so many guys are throwing in the 98 to triple digits now, and they're trying to get more guys to put the bat on the ball. The issue is, though, it's not about putting the bat on the ball. It's guys going for launch angles. So you're either popping it up, you're striking out, or you're hitting it out of the park. So to me, I understand what they're going for, but at the end of the day, it's the sabermetrics and all the analytics with hitters that has changed their mindset on how to hit. It's what made Mookie Betts' season last year so prolific, is because he was hitting like a guy who would back in the 90s and in the 80s when he's slapping the ball around the yard, like an Ichiro Suzuki, right? A guy who had power but preferred to use finesse and then speed to go ahead and get what he wanted.
Yeah, Rod Carew.
All right, so
I'm trying to visualize right now. And again, I'm the oldest one on this radio show. I get it. I'm trying to visualize Earl Weaver pissing and moaning with the TV camera, who's calling balls and strikes now. I'm trying to, because I remember Earl Weaver flipping his hat around backwards and getting in the face of an umpire, and Lou Piniella doing it, and Sparky Anderson doing it, and the great managers of their day. And I'm just waiting to see Earl Weaver, God rest his soul, I know he's gone, but see Earl Weaver get in a television camera who's calling balls and strikes now. And there goes the romanticism of baseball right there.
Well, the other thing is this. The one thing that I think should be done Why not start every game, Graham, at 6:05 Eastern time so little kids can go to the game and not stay up till midnight?
I personally would love that. I mean, it was here when I was out on the West Coast 2 years ago. And I was with Chris, the co-host on the podcast with me, and we're out in Arizona hanging out at noon, 1 o'clock, and we're drinking beer because all the games, the 4 o'clock games are already on, and then it's 3:30, 4 o'clock, and all 7 p.m. Eastern games are on. So I would like that. I would like to even see more day games because there is nothing to me still. There is nothing better than day baseball. It is just the sounds, the sights, the smells when everything is lit in sunlight is just that much better than being under the lights. It's just that's kind of that old school thing because I grew up going to spring training. It was always in the daytime, but I mean, when you watch the A's play and their uniforms are reflecting because they're just so white in the sun. It's one of the things that you really lose because of how money-centric and focused Major League Baseball is now for all these night games.
Yeah, and you got
Well, the worst is Sunday night baseball. I mean, when you get Sunday night baseball and it's Yankees Red Sox and it's on the East Coast at 8 o'clock at night, I mean, at that point, what's the point? I mean, nobody.
That's actually been moved this year. It's supposed to be 7 o'clock this year.
I mean, even that. I mean, even 7 is late. I mean, especially on a Sunday night. And I know kids are, they're home from school during the summer and all that, but it's late. I mean, I agree with you. The day games, there's nothing better than a baseball day game. There's just not. And then, for the guys, it's hot. It's definitely hot. But even if you were starting 4 o'clock games or something like that, but these late games they're just nuts. They're tough. And, being in, having been somebody who we drove in from New Jersey to go to Yankee Stadium, and you were without fail getting home at 1 o'clock in the morning, no doubt, every time.
I thought the worst part about the 5 o'clock Sunday night games or 8 o'clock Eastern was having to listen to A-Rod. Is he still? He's not on the broadcast this year.
I think he is.
Sarah,
am I wrong?
Because they just did an ESPN. They just did an ESPN spring training game yesterday with the Red Sox, and yeah, he was there. And Jessica Mendoza, who apparently now is an special advisor for personnel with the Mets. That was just announced a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, whole different thing. Brody Van Wagenen is really trying to upset the apple cart with everything he's doing in New York, but hey, maybe it'll work.
All right, how about this? This is something new that came up in the last 24 hours, but this year clubs will be required to submit starting lineups to the commissioner's office 15 minutes before they are made public in an effort by the league to reduce the value of inside information and add uniformity to how data is disseminated, Bobby.
Mike, I'm glad you brought that up. I thought we were going to go on our segment for that, but I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, Mike. I wrote a whole 2 pages on that, and I thought we were going to do that after we got Bobby on. So.
No. But I'm saying I'm glad he did now because we have a bigger table of perspectives to join in on this, not just mine.
But I got to say one thing before you get into that, Sarah, is there anything more cool than coming off? I think it's the E train out of Manhattan, coming up the Bronx. And it's coming out of the tunnel, and the first thing you see when you come out of that tunnel is Yankee Stadium. Did you ever do that?
Well, here's the thing: if you take the E train, you're definitely not ending up at the stadium. But you tell me what happens.
Well, I don't know what train it is. The B train, C train, whatever. There's a subway you take that comes right up. It's
the 4-5 in the BD, but the 4-5 you literally come out and you're you're all of a sudden above
there's
ground.
Yankee Stadium.
It's awesome. I thought you were going to ask me about
cool.
A-Rod and J-Lo, and I was going to get really excited that we got to talk about it, but
I don't care about A-Rod and J-Lo. But that is the coolest thing when you come out of that tunnel, and there is Yankee Stadium, and that's Mecca. Because Yankee Stadium is baseball Mecca.
No, it isn't.
Yeah,
it's not baseball Mecca. It's a different stadium.
It is baseball Mecca.
Babe Ruth didn't play there.
They've
rebuilt the stadium 3 or 4
weeks.
times. All I know is this. Baseball Mecca is Cincinnati. It's where baseball was born. It has the greatest base. What? Oh, my God, what?
Well,
the greatest team that ever lived came from Cincinnati. The first Major League Baseball team came from Cincinnati.
I went to my first Reds game last year, and there was close to 5 people in that stadium.
Yeah, what's that mean?
Maybe 6.
You know what? I could tell you this. In 1983, I went to a Yankees game where there was like 3,000 people there when they sucked. So the point is this. When you suck, people don't go usually.
So you guys,
am I wrong here? You know what? If you look back...
Okay, Mike, well said.
But 3,000 is still more than 6.
Well, there was more than 6 people, though. So right now, you're just saying something to fit your narrative. You're just talking out your ass. You're like Steve Risley Jr. right now.
So you guys don't think Tropicana Field is the mecca of baseball?
Hey, we used to come home and we.
Sorry,
used to
Sarah. Sorry, you're
when
left with me now. I apologize.
Yeah, I know. I just got like put on the left bench.
Yeah, you got.
I've got to like dig myself out. Jesus.
Yeah, you just got slammed big time.
I kind of don't know what to do right now. Like I'm kind of lost on where this commentary should go because I'm so in the hole.
Well,
I
you
live
can
in
dig
the
your
hole.
way out, or you could go ahead and throw the dirt on top yourself. It's up to you.
Well, here's the thing. I've never been put on the bench. I've always been a starter. This is hard. I don't know what to do.
How about this? This is something for
box.
you and all Yankee fans. In 1972, the New York Yankees averaged 12,000 people a game.
Well, I wasn't born yet. I can't be held responsible
Doesn't matter.
for that.
The Cincinnati Reds averaged 22,000. The whole point is this.
Okay,
you
so
cannot
what
judge.
about last year?
What about last year? Yankees were good, Reds sucked. This is the way it works, Sarah. If your team sucks, your fans suck because they don't want to go watch a team that sucks. Am I wrong here?
Hey, when the Yankees were not good in the late 80s, early 90s, I was still watching every game with my dad.
And I watch every game too, but
Mike,
most
are
people
you
don't.
saying that Mecca moves? Mike, are you saying that?
No, I'm saying this. The history of professional baseball starts in Cincinnati. It doesn't start in New York. When did the Yankees even come into existence, Sarah?
I don't know. You were around, Mike. You tell us.
No, Steve was around. I was right after that.
All I'm saying is, all I'm trying to address is the fact
Mecca
that the
is
Yankees
Fenway
are,
Park.
Baseball Mecca.
Baseball Mecca is Fenway Park.
Oh God. I'll give you Wrigley Field.
What's
I'm not
oh God
giving
mean?
you
Are you
Fenway.
just jealous because they keep winning World Series?
I am not jealous of any Red Sox or any Red Sox.
So why'd you go
negative?
So you didn't
Because that's not just a common reaction when I hear Fenway. I'm like, ugh. I mean, I
Babe
did
Ruth
not
actually
like
did play
any
there.
Fenway Park.
Yeah, Fenway Park is a lot nicer than Yankee Stadium because Yankee Stadium is new every 30 years.
So
Sarah, Joe Girardi or Aaron
I've
Boone?
been to Fenway Park. Ooh, they're very different. I love Aaron Boone, but Fenway Park. I've been to Fenway Park twice, and I think it's I am as a diehard baseball fan. Fenway is great. Don't get me wrong. It's like it is and I love the historic nature of it. There's so much cool stuff that goes on at Fenway. The Green Monster's awesome, all that kind of stuff. But I was there once, and I was wearing a Derek Jeter T-shirt, and I had a beer thrown at my head. And they weren't even playing.
That's
the
what
Yankees.
makes it great,
Those
though.
people have lost it.
But to
Yeah,
Alan,
New Yorkers never treat
That's
Red
like
Sox
a judgment
fans
issue
poorly.
right there on your part.
Yeah.
Wait, what? What happened?
I'm
my fault.
asking why is that the fault of the Red Sox fans? To me, wearing a Jeter jersey to Fenway Park is like wearing a Bumgarner jersey to Dodger Stadium. That's a judgment issue on the fan. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, you're going to get hit with a beer.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, security told me that I was not safe going into the seats in that shirt. But
okay, so you were
in
warned.
true
So
Yankee fashion,
at least they were nice enough to warn you. Where in New York, if you showed up with give me a Red Sox, with a Mookie Betts jersey, nobody's going to warn you not to go in. They're probably just going to club you to death.
Who is Mookie Betts?
He's a baseball
he's
player,
a right
Steve.
fielder.
For the world champion Boston Red Sox, correct, Sarah?
I know. I'm reading about him right now.
He stands
I
in,
know who Mookie Betts is.
Yeah, he stands in Aaron Judge's position. When Aaron's not out there, that's where he
now
stands.
You got to tell Steve who Aaron Judge is.
I know who Aaron Judge is. 6'8" baseball player who can knock the crap out of the ball out of the park. And he's a Yankee, and I'm with Sarah. I love the Yankees.
Yeah.
I'm a Yankees guy.
Most communists do. So.
Okay, settle down.
Yeah.
You're just coming to her defense. Steve, you're just coming to her defense because Mike.
No, Mike. Have I always said Mike?
You don't know one thing about the Yankees, Steve. Steve, who's the starting rotation for the Yankees this year?
I don't care. I don't know. You want to talk Murderers Row?
Okay.
Yeah, I do.
Go back to,
Are you looking it up right now?
Hold on.
No, I'm looking up the Cincinnati Reds started in 1881, and the Yankees started in 1900.
I hate to tell you this,
started in
but the
1903.
Cincinnati Reds
So
started
the Reds
in
are the oldest
1869.
baseball team in
the
baseball.
Reds started in 1869. This is their 150th year.
Well, they got right now founded 1881 is what I'm reading on their website right now.
So before we get
so
too deep
are
into
we
a
gonna
history
get,
lesson
are we gonna
here,
get to talk about? Wait, are we going to get to talk about like the hot topic here that we still did not get to address last week because I predicted Bryce Harper to the Phillies 3 weeks ago?
You did, everybody projected that. I just said that I didn't think he should, and it'll be proven out that I'm right.
I absolutely agree with you.
Then
on that
he
one.
shouldn't, or that the Phillies shouldn't.
The Phillies
Both.
should.
I think Harper going there is a mistake on his part too.
Nah, I think it's a good move for him. I think it's just 13 years. I would never sign a guy to 13 years, but
I think Harper is a guy who's way too much of an emotional player to be successful in Philadelphia. When you go to the city that booed Santa Claus, Santa Claus, yeah, I mean they're gonna. It's a rabid fan base, which is great.
Right.
But we see how much he gets into his head, and when he begins to do the same thing he did this past year, where he's a 220 hitter. And he's striking out like crazy and barely gets back to 250 by the end of the year. To me, Harper is the Cam Newton of baseball. Harper is the Cam Newton of baseball.
He's a front runner.
One MVP year, huge expectations, is never going to live up to what all the hype was behind him.
He should have came out to L.A. He should have came out to the Dodgers, taken $10 million less, and nobody gives a shit out here. You know what?
But
they don't win the World Series. Who cares?
It wasn't the less money. I mean, the Dodgers were only offering 4 years. 3 years, 4 years.
Well, the Nationals.
They're going to love him in Philadelphia.
What he made there. I think the Nationals offered
him
like $20 million less for 10 years.
They're going to love him in Philadelphia, and he's going to lead Major League Baseball over the next 10 years in home runs. Mark it down right now.
Oh, okay? God, Bobby.
And that ballpark in the
prediction.
Summer, he's going to hit more home runs than anybody else every year over the next 10 years. Especially playing in that ballpark in the summertime. The joke of a ballpark. And they're going to love him because he's a hard-nosed player. He's not a prude. He's a hard-nosed player.
Graham, Bobby got drafted in the second round by the E Sports team for the Phillies. So he will be Bryce Harper in real life.
Okay. That's all I was making sure. I'm like, yeah, that sounds very much just like we're talking about a game here. There's no way he's going to lead the major leagues in home runs for the next 10 years, whatever it is. That's just not going to happen.
Okay, so who are you going to pick, and how much money you want to put on that?
Let's see, home runs for the next 10 years healthy? Either Aaron Judge or Arenado.
Over the next 10 years? You want to take Arenado or Judge? Okay, I'll take Bryce Harper.
I would take Judge or Arenado. Okay.
Yeah,
okay, so
I'm going to go with Arenado. I'm going with Arenado on most home runs.
That's where I'm at, just because of the scope of Yankee Stadium and how much better it is for I think Arenado holds the ability to stay healthier longer and to be more successful over the long term.
Okay, so we'll go Arenado against Harper, and we'll see what happens.
That's assuming we're all still alive 10 years from now, Bobby.
I won't be.
Hey, did you guys see all the posts though coming out after he signed the 13-year deal on like the fact that the Mets are still going to be paying Bobby Bonilla even after Harper's contract's over?
Yeah. Oh, the Reds have been paying Ken Griffey Jr. and he's still got a few years left to go on that.
Well, and Seattle too is paying him, aren't they? Or are they both paying him on the same contract?
I think it's just Cincinnati.
Is A-Rod still getting paid?
I have no
clue. I really appreciate Harper's passion for wanting to bring a title back to DC. I thought that was really, heartfelt what he was saying in his opening press conference. And, I really
that was great.
That by him.
That was great. Do you think Boris maybe cringed for the first time ever?
Oh, I hope that I'm going to laugh if they boo him on his first at bat in Philadelphia because of that comment.
No chance of it.
Oh, my Lord.
Well, if he strikes out, they'll
What
go
up?
until he gets a hit.
Well, we have the one big free agent left, so where do we think he's going to end up? Boris has one guy left to place. Or one
That's
big
a
name
great
left
question.
to place. He still has a couple other guys.
Bobby, can we bet a prop? Can we bet what Bryce Harper does on his first at bat?
We're not talking about Bryce.
Strikeout or home run?
Sarah asked a question. You said that's great, and then you went to something totally different.
Wow, he just ignored me.
Sarah, you're talking.
She asked about Dallas Keuchel.
right?
She asked about Dallas Keuchel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But can you do a prop? Vegas will put certain props like that up, just to have fun things going on. But where Dallas Keuchel is going to end up is very interesting. I just was reading that article this morning, and
I think Philly or the Yankees make the most sense.
The Yankees definitely make the most sense. I just don't know if it's going to happen.
Especially with Severino and CeCe both out to start the year. And we already know CeCe's retiring. He's getting older. I think Keuchel to New York would be great for them. It's
but
got
the problem is he
Tanaka.
wants a long-term deal, and he's already in his 30s. That's the problem. So,
and that's where I think,
Well,
and you have Philly, who just locked up Aaron Nola for 4 years, and he's sitting behind, we got Arrieta sitting behind him, so I think it's nice as Arrieta begins to age. He's not going to be the same guy he was in Chicago. I think Keuchel to Philly, that's kind of that last little piece you need, because he's kind of your Jeff Samardzija you get in San Fran, but I think he may be a little bit more consistent, and he's a lefty, which at least makes the risk a little bit more worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
right.
Keuchel was great 3 years ago, but the last 2 years he has not been as good, and he's aging. I think it would be nuts for somebody to give him a long-term contract.
I agree.
Well, what about Craig Kimbrell? Kimbrell has Kimbrell signed yet?
No, he's still. Everything I hear is that people think he should go back to Atlanta, which is kind of a meeting of the veterans. You get him back there. McCann is back there. Josh Donaldson just signed not too long ago.
Well, and they haven't really.
Why are the Red Sox not signing him?
From what I think what we saw last year, there are obviously some health issues and concerns with him. Plus, he got kind of rocky last year. The saves began to be a concern with him. Granted, he was used in a lot of non-save situations, which we've heard how much that can affect the closer's mentality. But I mean, he is a guy who's getting older. I still think he's one of the probably 5 best closers in the game. But I guess they think they can get something better for cheaper.
Got it.
How about
the
Stephen
guy
Wright
they're handing the ball to in that role this year is they believe in, and he's not making. They're not going to have to shell it all. It's all money, right? I mean, that Barnes guy they're going to give the ball to is pretty good pitcher.
All right. Anything else, guys?
How about Stephen Wright being suspended for the first 80 games because he tested positive for growth hormone?
What about it? Happens all the time now, doesn't it?
I think the weirdest thing is seeing a knuckleballer. How hard do you need to throw? But I'll ask Sarah on this.
Follow the program the way he's supposed to. Because you have to be stupid to get caught. Those guys tell you, the guys who get the stuff from, it's undetectable if you do it right. I mean, everybody's on it. So, I mean, you're just stupid if you get caught.
Sarah, I'm curious because my thought was, and both Chris and I have kind of argued this point, but you think, after the Red Sox won this past year, I think this is going to be a year where the East is a little bit closer than it was last year. But do you see this actually giving the Yankees maybe just a slight edge to really knock this division down to 2 or 3 games to separate each division winner and whoever number 2 ends up being?
Well, I mean, I think the Yankees are, in my opinion, I don't think the Yankees were that good last year. I think that they struggled with pitching. Sonny Gray was always just not even questionable at most times. It was just, not good. And I think that if you get the pitching up to where it needs to be and the Yankees play the way that they should and, Stanton hits the way that he should, I don't even know that it's really as close as people think it's going to be. I truly think that the Yankees were not nearly as good of a team performance-wise as they should have been last year, and the Red Sox were able to capitalize on that, but the Red Sox had to play incredible baseball to maintain that position over them. So it'll be super interesting to see this year because the Yankee lineup is is incredible. And you add DJ LeMahieu to that, and again, I feel like I'm totally biased because I'm like, oh, they took him from the Rockies and put him on my favorite team. But they took two guys from the Rockies who are phenomenal, and that added a lot of depth, in my opinion, to the Yankees themselves. So, what happens this year is going to be, if the Yankees play at their full potential, I don't know that there's anybody that can beat them.
Yeah, I definitely think
not
they were
to say they're
sailed
going
out.
to be undefeated, obviously.
But the other thing about the Red Sox is this. For all the success they've had the last 15 years, they've never even really come close to repeating as world champions, have they, Graham?
Ever.
No. I mean, they trailed off in 05, in 08, and then, of course, I mean, you went from, I think, World Series, or you went from worst to World Series and then went down again, and John Farrell loses his job a couple of years later. So, I mean, I think she's definitely right. Is they were, I mean, the Yankees were bailed out by offense last year, but the Red Sox also overcame terrible pitching, and they haven't done much to get better pitching. I mean, there's no guarantee David Price is going to be the Price we saw in the playoffs when he was, he was what we remember from Tampa Bay years and years ago.
Yeah, I think it's actually
Remember what
possible.
I asked Sarah?
Go ahead.
Remember what I asked Sarah? You guys might not have heard it about 20 minutes ago. Boone or Girardi?
Yeah.
And she said Boone, and then we moved on. But my point
it's a different.
My point is Alex Cora. My point is Alex Cora. The guy's the next great manager, and he's going to lead this team to multiple. I'm not saying World Series, but multiple great seasons.
I think it's possible when you look at the Red Sox. Their weakness last year was their bullpen. They've lost a couple guys out of it. They haven't really strengthened it. I think the Yankees win this division fairly easy. I'm with Sarah here, but I think if there's one team that can challenge the Yankees, it might be the Blue Jays instead of the Red Sox.
Mike,
I don't know about that. I don't see enough. I don't see enough with pitching. Or I mean, they.
Well, I'm just saying. I think they'll be better than the Red Sox, which makes them second place. So they would be the team challenging the Yankees.
So do you think that Tampa Bay was a fluke last year? Because I mean, Tampa Bay would have been a division winner in almost any other division in Major League Baseball last year, because they happened to be in the AL East and get stuck behind 200-win teams.
Yeah, I know.
Which was the first time in history we had a 100-win team not be a division winner.
Well, I mean, really, the AL East outside of Baltimore was pretty good last year, right?
No, the Blue Jays were almost an insult to dumpster fires.
No, they were good for like a month and a half at the start of the season.
So were the White Sox in 2015.
Yeah, but I'm a Reds fan. Hell, if my team could be good for a month and a half, I'd be happier than hell. But, yeah.
I'll tell you what. You couldn't get me to take the Yankees over the Red Sox this year. You couldn't get me to do that to win that division. For my life, no way. I'd take the Red Sox.
You couldn't pick the Yankees over the Red Sox?
For my life,
he's going Red Sox. He's going all in Red Sox.
Well, I hope the Red Sox.
For my life,
I'm still not totally sold on the starting rotation for New York yet. Plus, with the injuries already happening early, that just concerns me. I love that they signed Severino to an extension and figure out what he is, but that concerns me.
And pitching is always a concern, right? Because it doesn't. There are those games where you can have your home run hitters. Aaron Judge can knock 4 out of the park, and if your pitcher's still giving up the same thing on the other side, I mean, you're just screwed. It's tough, and so you need the pitching, and I think that's going to be the biggest thing at the beginning of the season is figuring out what's going on there. And once we start to see that and see what the rotation starts to look like, I mean, the Yankees may be pressed to sign Dallas. I can never say his last name, but they may be pressed to sign him because they need something in that starting rotation.
Yeah, I think he should go to the Reds, but I think.
Good call, Mike.
Great
call, Mike.
That
could happen.
Huh?
That could happen. No, that could happen.
What did you say, Sarah?
Yeah.
I said you're more biased than I am.
How am I more biased? I'm not the ones here sitting saying my team's going to win the division, even though they are. I just didn't say it.
Mike's happiest moment before this year. Mike's happiest moment before this year is when all the reporters were saying that Dallas Keuchel and A.J. Pollock were going to end up in Cincinnati, and neither one's going to end up happening.
No, I never thought that they needed them. We got Yasiel Puig, who will hit more home runs than Bryce Harper this year.
probably will in AAA.
Okay.
Oh God. Ooh.
So
That
what
Reds
is?
ballpark is also home
I
run
know
friendly.
the
There's
Reds
no doubt about
ballpark
that.
is awesome. It's a lot better than Yankee Stadium. Hell, is it older than Yankee
All right.
Stadium? When did they rebuild Yankee Stadium last?
I mean, I think they rebuilt it like 6 months ago again.
Okay.
But,
So,
that's
yeah.
just because
Great
that's
American
what we do.
Ballpark
just,
is like almost 20 years old. It's older than Yankee Stadium. All right. Graham, anything else we want to touch on?
I think that's pretty much it, guys.
Sarah?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered quite a lot, and Steve was pretty quiet for most of the time.
He was enjoying the ambiance and the romance of the game.
He was. He turned on
Today-
Lady and the Tramp for sure after you made that comment.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest person in baseball.
Can I call you back?
Well, yeah, because Sarah and I are both here. I mean, how much better can it get for you?
I didn't disagree with you at all. It was a privilege.
Yeah,
Sarah
there's no
Uhran, I
chance
have a
it's getting
question
better
for
than
you.
that. Yeah.
Sarah Uhran, Mike Trout, does he re-sign with the Angels or no? If you put your life on it right now, what do you say?
I say he signs with the Phillies as soon as he's a free agent.
All right. Okay.
And my
That'll
mom
be
is
very interesting.
dying. My mom is literally, she is like, he looks like Mickey Mantle. He hits like Mickey Mantle. He's going to be a Yankee. In her
He should go to the
fantasy
Reds.
world,
He should.
in a fantasy world, he's a Yankee fan.
Yeah.
But I truly think Mike Trout spends his off seasons back home in his hometown with his high school sweetheart wife. Like, I mean, I feel like
Yeah, he should
everything
go to-
points to the fact that that's what he wants.
Well, don't
He
you
should
think
go to
that
the Reds.
maybe there weren't that many teams offering, money to Bryce Harper because they're all trying to make a run at Mike Trout, who's a much better player?
Could very well be true. I mean,
Sarah,
they
are you
all
still down in
being
Florida?
No, I'm back. No. Can't you hear the cold in my voice? Like, that is from being in Florida and then coming back to the cold in Denver. Like, landed and snow started again.
Yeah. All the adults
Oh,
I
man.
find live in cold weather. It's the sissies that live where it's warm.
No dig intended over there at all.
Yes, it was intended completely because it seems like me and Sarah are probably the two toughest here while the other three sissies live where it's warm.
Hey, I was born here. I didn't have much of a choice.
Don't give me that. You were born there. It's not much of a choice. You could always choose to move. Risley used to be tough, and then he moved to California.
I could, but
I
mean,
don't
what
know that
am
he
I
was
gonna do?
ever actually
Am I
tough.
gonna
Yeah, me neither. I'm just trying to be
That's what's
nice.
happened?
All right, guys. We are going to go ahead and wrap this portion of the show up. We are going to let Sarah go. We're going to let Graham go. Bobby's going to stay to do his Sheridan report and give us his top play today. But, Sarah, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
I don't know if I want. No, I'm just kidding. Website is
Sound like Denver, Colorado.
APCAgency.com.
Yeah, you already told them where you live.
Denver, Colorado. The website's the APCAgency.com. Twitter and Instagram are just at Sara Uhran. So, or if you want to pronounce it Uhran, you can, like Mike does at all
You
times.
told me Uhran before.
No, I said he ran, she ran, you ran down the street.
I've never heard that until right now. But thank you, Sarah. You ran. Listen, you gotta admit, Uhran sounds a lot better though.
It actually sounds very sports oriented. It's
Yeah.
like a chant.
It does.
It's meant to be
So
chanted.
how about this? Just so I don't have to change how you say your name, run down to the courthouse when the show's over. $50 you can change your name, and you're Uhran from now on.
You got it. Hey,
That
I'm
would be
totally on board. I'll do it. I'm on top of this.
All right.
Add it to the list today.
All right, Graham, you want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Yeah, you can find the show on Facebook, Out of Left Field with Chris and Graham. You can find the show on Twitter at OO Left Field, and I am at Graham_OOLF.
All right, guys, make sure you follow them. And Out of Left Field right now is the number 2 show on the network for the week. You guys have already like 4,000 listens.
Awesome to hear.
So that's good. All right, Sarah, Graham, thanks for calling in, and we will talk to you sometime next week.
Thanks, Mike.
Sounds good. Have a good one, guys.
All right, thanks, guys. Bobby Sheridan. It's time for the Sheridan Report. What's your top play tonight?
Hey, Mike. Hey, now I feel at home. I feel great with you and Steve. And
Yeah, those
talking
interlopers
about
are gone, Steve. Now it's just us. Just the adults are left. See?
Hey, Steve.
Yo, buddy.
I like that romantic part of baseball that you bring up. I really do. And
it is. Baseball's a very romantic sport. I believe it is.
We're going to have a great season this year coming up, and talking that baseball really gets me fired up. But, we got to get through basketball, and we got the NBA here and the real season starting soon there, and the real season for the NCAAs too with the conference tournaments. And we kind of are hitting the college thing a little hard tonight. The pros have only 2 games, and we do have a top play in one of those, and that's I'm going to go over that right now. It's the Portland Trailblazers over Oklahoma City tonight. And we've got 3 college games that I really like today, and we can go over one of those in a bit too. But let's talk about Portland. The Trailblazers and the Thunder, they're tied right now for 3rd. And remember basically they're in the 3-4 spots with Houston breathing right down their neck, right? So we've got those 2 teams, basically those 3 teams, 2 are gonna maintain the top 4. And tonight's game is a big one tonight. Portland and Oklahoma City Thunder, and you got Oklahoma City really put together a really nice run before the All-Star break and just after, but recently they've kind of come across some tougher times. Paul George set out a few games with an ailing shoulder, and he came back last game and shot 8 for 25. And they don't have the depth that some of the other teams in the conference are showing, and I think Oklahoma City is a candidate to fall out of that top 4. I really do. And, this game tonight, they're 3-0 against Portland on the season. And this is the 4th and last game. So there's no tiebreaker implications, but the winner of this game will move ahead of the other. So how often in the NBA during a presser or a day before, 2 days before, do you hear one of these players talk about what a big game coming up is? You almost never hear it in the regular season. Almost never. And that was the comments from Damian Lillard, Portland star guard. He talked about this being a very big game coming up. And this was a day or 2 ago he made this comment. So we know that Portland's going to be absolutely ready to play this game tonight at home. They shoot the ball very well at home. They're a deep team, and they're a very good team. And I think you're going to find that Portland and Houston are going to lock down those 3rd and 4th spots, and Oklahoma City is going to fall back. So that starts tonight, guys. So Portland, I have -3.5 on the TSR. It's up to 4. You're not going to get 3.5. So go ahead, lay the 4. And Portland should win that game, probably close to 10 points tonight. I believe that'll happen. So there's your top NBA play of the night, Mike.
All right. On this day, Bobby?
Hey, wait, Mike, can we go a little different direction? Because on this day, there's nothing really big here.
There isn't.
Can we go back and readdress what you brought up? And I really wanted to hear Bobby's opinion on this and yours, because the professional, the major league rules about having to turn the lineup cards in now to deal with sports betting, sports books.
Oh,
can we address that?
Call.
I mean, I wanted to go back to that, and I wanted the 3 of us to do it because I didn't want to have too much dialogue on it, because I really want Bobby's opinion. And Mike, I know you with Pete Rose and how you feel about that situation, betting on baseball. How relevant and how important is this? Can we just do that instead of on this day today?
If you want.
Great call, Steve. Great call. Mike, is that okay? You want to get into that right now?
If you want, talk.
It doesn't have to be a big to-do. It's really fairly simple. MLB comes out with a, like Mike had said, they want, what's the word they use, Mike? Uniformity.
Yeah.
Basically, I think they want to, how it's been done in the past is teams have decided themselves how they want to release that day's lineup, okay? And usually they use their PR department, their Twitter handle, their lead beat reporter, and they let him go ahead and leak the information, or they let it get out at some point. The lineups get posted in the clubhouses around probably 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock, something like that, sometimes 1 o'clock for a night game. And it kind of just gets out there, And what MLB is saying now is, again, a little bit of an overreaction. We want uniformity how this is getting disseminated. So first, it's all got to come to us. And then 15 minutes later, you can release it how you want to release it. But we'll be the first in the know on that lineup for that evening. And it's just MLB, I think, more like they were on the other issue we talked about before with the betting, with the spring training games. They just want the overreaction, basically. And they just want to have a little bit of control on how this is released. So go ahead. They can make a call. And that's how it'll happen. And,
so Mike, is this an anti-Pete Rose thing? No. So make sure that because now you're getting into sports book, because, MLB is partnered with Sport Radar, and they're with MGM Resorts, and is Major League Baseball the first one to really get into the sports gaming, Bobby? And is this a Pete Rose thing that, we're not going to let that happen?
No, it's not a Pete Rose thing. Pete Rose was the manager. He already knew who was playing anyways. The only people that gives it advantage here are the people inside of the Major League Baseball offices who can then place their bets.
Yeah, they get the information 15 minutes sooner than we get it as a public. But if you're following these games, if you're a sports bettor and you're following these games on a daily basis, you can almost anticipate these lineups anyways, except for injuries, because a left-handed pitcher's on the mound. It's a Sunday day game. They're probably going to rest this hitter. This will be the lineup that will probably be thrown out there. Because what happens is, a lot of times on the day games after night games, Sundays, a lot of times managers will use these as opportunities to rest a star player. And everybody thinks that just because a star player's rested and he won't get 4 at-bats that day, that all of a sudden that team's at a distinct disadvantage.
Yeah, they're grandstanding. That's all they're doing.
Okay.
They're making it look like they're doing something. I don't think they're
doing
it. How about this? I think the bigger question is this. Do you go to the robot umpire and all that because you want to eliminate, the
human
possibility?
Error?
No, the possibility that it's not human error. We just saw Tim Donaghy, fixed basketball games. So everybody
Mike, that's a great call because the home plate umpire controls everything.
Yep.
And it doesn't have to be just the third strike call that's obvious. It wouldn't be that. These guys are smarter than that. It's the 1-1 pitch that he calls a ball instead of a strike.
Well, how about this? 1984.
Right 2-1, Mike, let me finish.
Go ahead.
2-1 versus 1-2 changes the whole at-bat, changes the whole sequence of the inning. And that would be the call he would make, not the third strike call that everybody would see as obvious.
Well, and he also has the right
point, Mike.
He has the right to overrule pretty much everything too, doesn't he?
Well, yeah. Well, the crew chief does, and the crew chief is not always the home plate umpire.
Yeah, but the crew chief can be bought. How about this? 1984. I don't know if you remember this game, but the Reds against the Cubs at Wrigley Field. Mario Soto gives up what is first called a home run that was probably 20 feet foul. And
I
he
remember
freaks
it well.
out. Yeah, he goes apeshit. He charges at the umpire. All hell breaks loose. And then before you know it, they overturn it, and the crew chief says that it's not a home run. Then the Cubs freak out and go nuts. All I'm saying is it's great to say that you want human error involved in the game. I'm saying this. With the amount of money bet on games anymore, the amount of money that can be done on games, and we know that college basketball has been fixed before with the CCNY scandal in the 50s. We know Tim Donaghy just a few years ago was changing NBA games. I'm not as big on the human error thing. To me, I want to make sure that the athletes, it's about the athletes. It's not about the guys staring at balls and strikes or calling pass interference. To me, when I see a blatant call like the Saints and the Rams, everybody could sit here and say, well, you should be able to overcome it and all this horse shit. I think two guys stood there and watched that, and they let it occur, and nobody called anything. I think there's a deeper issue here than how the championship game turned out. I think the deeper issue is why that call wasn't made on the field with two guys staring directly at it that know the rules, and it was not even really a questionable call, and I don't care how fast it's going. I think there's an issue with that. And I think if people knew how many times there was a dishonest player or a dishonest official in a game, there would be bigger problems. That's why I think Pete Rose should never be in baseball again. Because Pete Rose, whenever you make people think that the game is not on the up and up, the game is done. That's why Kennesaw Mountain Landis with the 1919 World Series, he used Joe Jackson and other players that were not involved in that, and he used them as examples so that we wouldn't have that again. Because really, if you look before 1919, there's a lot of people that think World Series before that were fixed, Bobby.
Yeah, I know. And the fact that you brought this up with the strike zone and the electronic strike zone, and I'm glad you saved it for our segment, because I wasn't thinking along those lines, but you are dead on, especially with the overreaction of MLB and how they're just very almost afraid of the betting implications. And I think this is more along the lines, I think you're right, to take away the home plate umpire from possibly throwing these games.
Yeah, and I think, Steve, that is a genuine concern. I mean, anybody can be bought for the round amount of money. There's a lot of money in this. And also, Steve, you've talked about it before with the NBA, and they'll make sure the Lakers get in, or they're going to make sure Peyton Manning wins the Super Bowl. I would like for people to make sure that everything's on the up and up. I don't give a shit if it's human error. I want the correct call made at all times. That's what I want, because I don't think a lot of times this is human error.
Mike, that's fair. I mean, that's very fair. I mean, I've always been an athlete in my life, and I've always just accepted, like I said, opportunity and adversity as part of what
that's bullshit.
I did.
Because this is the thing. What if you found out?
Well,
what if you found out,
though,
that it was fixed? It's not overcoming adversity, or it's just incompetence.
Well, I don't live with black helicopters flying over my house thinking the government's going to overthrow me and kill me every day. I don't live on conspiracy theories.
You're a fucking idiot.
I live on the fact
because you know what? I don't need somebody to preach to me what a conspiracy is and what it isn't. A conspiracy is something that's fucking made up out of thin air. It's not something that has government documents that prove it. But if you want to attack me on that, that's fine. But Tim Donaghy admitted.
Attacking you
no,
on it,
fuck.
Mike.
I'm not stupid. Tim Donaghy fixed basketball games a few years ago. And the fact that you want to stick your head in the sand and say, well, I played. I don't know what you fucking playing has anything to do with an official fixing a game. I would think that if you're playing, you would like to make sure that the officials aren't. And I would like to know that the players aren't. So the betting aspect is a problem. And the thing is this, you might as well make it legal because it's easier to control than possibly. Everything's out in the open. I don't have anything wrong with gambling on it, but when people say Pete Rose should be in, Pete Rose did something that is completely unforgivable. It's in his contract that you can't play if you did that. He needs to be eradicated from the game. People like Tim Donaghy need to be eradicated from the game. And if you can't guarantee me what I'm paying to go see is legit, I don't want to pay to go see it. So, yeah, when I first thought this, a robot umpire sounds nuts, but what the hell's wrong with actually having the correct calls on balls and strikes? Why do you need to have human error for people that aren't playing the game?
Good point, Mike.
I mean, if you could get the call right for sure every time and the players decide the game, why do we need a 60-year-old man who's been doing this since the 1984 World Series determining whether it's a ball or a strike when we can easily see whether it's a ball or a strike?
Okay.
And this is the thing. Yeah. This is the thing. People say, well, isn't it cool?
It's not hard to argue that,
isn't it
Bobby.
Cool? Isn't it cool?
Not hard to argue that.
Not hard to argue
hard to
what?
Argue against his logic.
I mean, it's logic. If you want the game done right, do it right. If you want to throw in some 60-year-old man or 50-year-old man that may have a vendetta against somebody, a grudge, or may want to bet on the game. The other thing is this. You cannot have a high strike zone or a low strike zone. When I managed baseball, which I did with my son, 16, 17-year-old team, and we did win a national championship when he was 15, and he does have a ring. I can send you a picture. But when we won, I mean, it's just the fact that I'll go into a game and I'll tell my son, well, when you're going to, he's got a high strike zone, so make sure you keep it high. That's bullshit. Because, I think there's a rule on what the strike zone is. And I think it is bullshit that the rule for what the strike zone is not followed. Because it's not. Because from what I know, maybe it's changed in the last few years, Bobby, but wasn't it knees to the chest letters?
Yes.
So how could you have a high or a low strike zone? The strike zone, it is written into the rules. It is from your knees to your letters. How the hell can you have an umpire that calls it from the waist to the letters one day, and then the next day calls it from the knees to the waist? That's horse shit.
Yeah,
that's incompetence.
It is horse shit. It's because of how he sets up. He doesn't see a certain zone well, or he injects his own. I don't believe this should be called a strike. His own opinion. That's right. That's correct.
And
because
I think
there's so
with
much
baseball
of that
rules, there is so much ambiguity in the rules. And it's only that way because officials have made it that way. It's just like there's a lot of things people don't know. Bobby, does a tie go to the runner?
Well, that's the old axiom, yes.
It's the old axiom, but it's not the rule. You look the rule up, and there's no such thing as a tie. He either beat it or he didn't beat it.
Right.
And I remember having this argument with an umpire in Louisville, Kentucky a few years ago, and I said, a tie goes to the runner. He said, you show me, he said, I'll give you 3 minutes to go over, get your rule book, and you show me where it says that, and if it says that, I'll call him safe. And it didn't say that. And I looked for weeks after that.
Right.
Right,
and we have the ability now to put an electronic strike zone. It's on the television every time we watch a game. They could do it there on the field. We have the ability to do that. We have the ability to fix all these problems, so why not? Yeah, and with the gambling part mixed in here, with wanting to maintain the integrity, why do we let a 55-year-old guy call balls and strikes poorly on a game where there could be six figures on the line for him if he calls it right?
Well, and the thing is this, if they're going to integrate the gambling aspect into professional sports, you have to even go farther, Steve, to make sure this shit is legit, because the first sign that it's not, you lose a ton of fans. And with gambling being promoted, and if it's legal in every state, that changes everything, I think.
Yeah. It does, but I can see Steve as a fan.
Oh, I can see the point too.
This.
But I just think that there's too much shit here that can be,
too much at stake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much at stake. We kind of lose the innocence now. The innocence is lost.
Oh, I think the innocence was lost in the early 1900s. I just think right now it's going to stick out more if you've got a bad call.
Yeah.
But Steve?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think everybody's entitled to their opinion. I mean, I play the game because I love to play the game, and I love I go back to where I love the opportunity and the adversity of playing. That's why I played.
I played to win. That's how I play. Well, I coach to win, and I don't want something that has nothing to do with it to affect whether I win or lose. I want it to be because I'm either better than you or I'm not better than you.
Well, and my opinion is I like to be stressed, challenged. That's why I do sports. Stressed, challenged, put into different opportunity situations, and go after it. I mean, it's just a different opinion, Mike. It's nothing personal.
Well, I can tell you this.
I'm telling you, to me, the beauty of it is, Bobby, and don't tell me you didn't try and edge strike zones when you were a pitcher. You edged them as much as you could. You threw inside. You threw hard, high, and in. You did everything you could to cheat the umpire. And don't tell me you didn't, because you're not an athlete if you didn't do that.
No,
you didn't?
Can't do anything to cheat
so
the
you
umpire.
Just threw down the middle of the plate every time, right?
No. But the catcher framed.
Right, yeah. You cheated everything you could to try and cheat it, to get an edge on a batter, because it's a strategy between you and a batter. It's a strategy between me and defenders, me and Magic going at each other, me and whoever is playing, and you cheat however you can, and you go fight it, and you use the rules, and you bend them, and you hope you get a call, you hope you get a break. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. You live and die with it.
Your sports,
if you want to make it mechanical, then fucking go play sports on EA Sports on your goddamn TV.
Really? We're going to use the Lord's name in vain
constantly?
I'm so sick of that. Yeah. I've told you how many times. I mean, we're friends and all, but I mean, this is like 5 million times. I don't care if you say the F word. I don't care what you say. Please don't use the Lord's name in vain. Go ahead, Bobby.
Yes, as far as the basketball, his sport, what about the arm locking now that we see? That used to be a strategy I'm sure you use, Steve. Tell me
arm locking, what are you talking about? Arm locking, what are you talking about? What sport are you talking about?
I'm talking about basketball. Maybe I'm not describing it right, but when you put the arm inside the other guy and lock him,
Bobby,
and make it look like
do you realize they could call holding on every single offensive play in the NFL? Every single play, they could call holding if they wanted to.
Well, right, but
well, yeah, right. Okay,
basketball.
My point exactly. They could call it. There is holding on every single play. You skirt it, you cheat it, you beat it, and you use it to your advantage. That's the beauty of sport.
My question is,
if you want computer games, play computer games. Go bet, go play computer games.
Now? Are you glad that they go to the replay and look and see who arm locked?
No, I hate instant replay. I hate it, and it's trashed the game. Okay, because I believe human error is part of the game.
Yeah. I don't know what a freaking official has to do with it, because the best games I've ever seen officiated were a 5-on-5 game where there's no referees and you call your own fouls. I don't know why you need officials.
No, you're right, Mike. You're exactly right. We used to play that all summer long. Yeah. There's no better officiated game than call your own fouls. Yep, yeah. I fouled you. Yep, it's on me. You're spot on there.
Yeah, so why do we need officials?
I don't know why we need officials, but why do we need mechanical televisions telling us, because as Bobby says, the money in the game is so big now, you've got to have somebody making a rule. Because we've lost track of what the game's all about.
I still think if you left it up to the players,
track of what the game's all about.
Would be correctly officiated. I know we have. Now it's about, what officials are there,
money.
How many rules we can have. Exactly. And everybody's good with that because, human error.
I'm fine. I'd rather have human error than have it mechanically done.
So you're fine with NBA official that's going to pick who he wants to win and make it that way.
No, Mike, you're making an example of one idiot guy who screwed
one.
Well, I don't know how many. Yeah, I don't know how many. So, I'm sorry I said one. We know of one that came out in a story on ESPN. We know there are probably more. We know about Kennesaw Mountain Landis and about the 1919 Black Sox. We get all that. And, there are examples you can always cite everywhere. But to me, to have to face opportunity and adversity every time is why I play sports, why I play golf. Golf is not me against you. Golf is me against the golf course. What opportunities is it going to give me? What opportunities am I going to take advantage of? What adversity am I going to face on every shot? And I go play. And that's why I love golf. I'm a freaking 15 handicap golfer. I can't break 80 anymore. But I go out there every day and play because it's just me against the course. It's opportunity and adversity. And you start putting mechanics into it, just do it on television. Go ahead. Have at it. Then it's a computer. Have fun. I'd rather have human error as part of it because that changes the game on a moment's notice and makes you re-strategize and rethink what you're doing. It changes everything. I mean, New Orleans had every opportunity to overcome that bad call. And they weren't – I think they did. It wasn't the last play of the game.
No, they didn't.
Who did?
They didn't.
What are we talking about?
Circumstance, they didn't.
What are we talking about? I didn't hear what game he said. I was reading this about the NFL.
The New Orleans Rams call.
Oh.
Right.
New Orleans
Well, if you're reading
no
something else
opportunity
when
to
I'm talking,
overcome
then you have no respect for me. Finish up the show. Let's go. Let's get off.
What?
If you're not listening to what I'm saying, then you have no respect for me, Mike. Finish the show.
You know what? I get so fucking sick of this. You know what? I was reading something about NFL FBI report on the people that fix the games. There's been numerous times where I've asked you something, and you tell me that you're watching something on TV or reading something. I was reading something to make my point. I just asked which game you were talking about because I didn't hear it at the start. And to sit here and say that I have no respect for you, this shit gets really old, Steve. Really old. Because everything is woe is me. All right, we're going to wrap the show up. Make sure you check out the Sheridan Report. Bobby Sheridan, at Sheridan Report on Twitter. You can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes,
Wait.
Anywhere you can find sports podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Sara Uhran, Bobby Sheridan, Steve Risley, Graham McGowan, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.